Good morning, everyone. How are you feeling today? Amazing. So let's talk about some tech, shall we? All right. So first of all, a little bit context, because context is important, right? Context is we want blockchains to become better. We don't want them to be stuck in the times. So we want to bring evolving blockchains. Now that a few years ago, this whole term, evolving blockchains, was more like an oxymoron. Blockchains did not evolve, but now they do. Let's find out how. So, how many of you have heard this term from your project managers? I promise you, I will not sound like them. So, agile in general sense, in our world, in the software world, it means a methodology that aims towards flexibility to evolve. It means something that should become better, that should be delivered faster, instead of just staying stuck. Now, I want to ask you a question before going forward. Can blockchains be agile? Let's find out. Let's find out. So, to make something agile, to make something easy to evolve, we want to make sure that they change with time, that they become better with time. So what could trigger a change in a blockchain platform? There could be a lot of things. There could be protocol upgrades. That could happen most of the time, like when we want to change something in terms of incentives, when we want to change something in terms of basically how are the participants participating in a blockchain network, how are they governing it, and so on. The next one is, very important, we want to continue the optimizations. We don't want to leave the network as is. We don't want to leave it like, it's not becoming better than before. So optimizations. Of course, we are humans. We make mistakes, so we need to fix the bugs. So that is why we need to change the blockchain platforms as well. And finally, we want to make sure that we are listening to our users. We want to make sure that we are respecting what our users are telling us. So we need to incorporate the feature requests as well. So all of these things together require a blockchain platform as well to change, to evolve. Now, as a result, what could change? Well, the most basic thing, the business logic can change, because when you are fixing bugs, when you are adding features, you will update your business logic. When there are more participants, more diverse participants are participating in your network, you might want to modify the incentives as well at a certain point in time. Then, because of that same reason, you might want to modify the governance rules as well, like who is participating in your network, what are their incentives, what are their motivations, and how do they want the network to behave. All of that requires governance rules, and that could change as well. And finally, when all of that changes, by default, the data changes. The schema changes, the layout changes, because at the end of the day, it's all bits and bytes, right? And when all of that changes together, sometimes the underlying technology changes as well. The underlying technology also changes. And all of this together makes or asks for a lot of change in a blockchain. Now, if you look back, there have been so many networks out there in the past. How many do you recall have changed so progressively? Like, some of the networks have taken years to actually move on to the next level, because they require a lot of effort put behind. Now let's look at a couple of examples on what happens when you try to change a blockchain that is not on Polkadot. So let's say we look at a scenario. We want to update the rules or business logic of a DeFi platform. Let's just put it that way. There has been a very interesting DeFi platform that upgraded themselves a few months ago. And then what did users have to do? All of this. All of this their developers had to do. They had to update their smart contracts, migrate the data, test, audit, deploy, and users, dApps, wallets, all of them had to update their smart contract addresses as well. And if you make one mistake, you'll have to do all of it again. So upgrading blockchains is also not easy. So this is example one. Now let's look at another example. We are looking at a large enterprise trying to join a new enterprise blockchain network. What happens? New member wants to join. They want to bring in a new system and new parameters. And they have to do all of this. Once again, all of that effort, all of those extra special person hours going into doing something repeatedly all over again. But why do we want to do all of this complicated stuff? Now, that was just the tech part of things. Now, let's talk about the people part. Because blockchains bring tech and people together. They are decentralized. There is no admin. There is no one sitting in the back office pushing a button and a microservice gets updated. That's not how blockchains work. So how do we make sure that all of these, like different kind of users, developers, stakeholders are aligned towards upgrading a blockchain? How do we make sure that when they align, they are able to enact those rules efficiently? When they are finally coming up with an upgraded version of the blockchain, how do we make sure that that actually happens? So one thing is alignment, other thing is execution. Both are important and both are needed. So that's basically more or less how complicated it is to change a blockchain. Now, let's sum it up together. What's the problem? What are the blockers? Every time you want to change a blockchain, you have to create a fork, because the new rules have to create a new node, and then you have to basically connect them all together again. Becomes a fork. Now, if people want to join that fork or not join, that's completely up to them, because again, it is decentralized. To make sure maximum amount of people join the fork, you have to do a lot of coordination, because of course, those forks are joined by people who are running the nodes. I spoke about execution already, because you want to put all of that new business logic on top of the blockchain. How do you bring it up? And finally, when you do all of that, you have to bring together the data as well, because it's all immutable. These are systems known for their immutability and security. You cannot leave the data behind. So those are the blockers. They are the problem when we want to update a blockchain. What do we do? Let's see how do we make sure that the blockchains continue to evolve. So just connecting back from the previous slide. If those were the blockers, what could be the features? What could enable evolving blockchains? We want something to make sure that the governance becomes seamless. We want to bring it on the chain. We want to make sure that there are no forks happening, because forks create complexity. So let's get rid of the forks. We want to make sure that the state migrations are not left to the users and dApp developers. They should happen automatically as part of the platform upgrade. They should happen automatically as part of the protocol upgrade. And finally, when you are building something on top of what you have already, you should have something that is extensible. You should have an extensible framework to make sure that whatever you have today can be easily extended to the future version without too many hassles. So all of these things, in my opinion, are features for evolving blockchains. If you don't have even one of them, your blockchains will be very hard to evolve. So, now where do we get those features? Well, you can guess actually. You are at the Polkadot conference. So, Polkadot is built with Substrate. And it natively supports all of those features I just mentioned. for on-chain governance, for forkless upgrades. And then when we put together the substrate framework, when we bring it in the picture, this allows you to build all of those blockchains with all these features inbuilt. So that's what Polkadot and Substrate bring together. They bring you evolving blockchains of the future. Let's see how. I'm not done yet. I'll show you the proof. So the first one, on-chain governance. If you are aware how Substrate works, it is basically a framework that allows you to build custom blockchains. And those blockchains can be connected to Polkadot as parachains. All of those blockchains, when built using Substrate, they can have all of these features or all of these modules in them. All of the on-chain governance automatically comes in. So you can have a collective-based governance, you can have a democracy-based governance, you can have election-based governance. All of that can be done inside of your blockchain on the business logic seamlessly. Now, this is the most famous diagram of Substrate I've ever seen. I've been using this for 5 years, I'm telling you. But this still works. This is the core of forkless upgrades. The entire business logic of a Substrate chain, including Polkadot, is written in a Wasm blob. And this can be upgraded on the blockchain at any point in time. This is as simple as basically creating your new business logic. We call it runtime of a blockchain. You create your new runtime, you compile it into a Wasm blob, you upload it, and that's it. That new uploaded blob becomes the new business logic of your blockchain. It brings you new business rules, it brings you everything that you need in the future version. It fixes the bugs as well. So that's forkless upgrades. How they work? Using Wasm. Automated storage migrations. Now, this is something that is built in as well. You don't have to ask your users to use the new smart contract address. You don't have to ask your users to update their wallets and dApps with the new data. You can simply create a script inside your blockchain upgrade process, and that would just take care of all of your storage migrations. So nothing is left to the user to make a bug about. Nothing is left to the user to make a mistake about. Everything is taken care by the protocol in a fully secure manner. And finally, extensibility. Like I said previously, if you are building something for the future, you want that thing to be extensible. If you are building something that you know that the technology is going to evolve, like, we always say 1 year in blockchain is like 10 years in conventional tech. When the space is moving so fast, you want to make sure whatever you are using is extensible. You want to make sure whatever you are using today also can be used tomorrow and day after and day after. And that is where Substrate brings extensibility. It is a fully white box approach. You can change anything in your blockchain. You can bring new consensus algorithm. You can bring a completely new framework in it. You can build your own APIs as per the needs of your users on your dApps. And you can also have a fully modular architecture covering all of that together. So that's the extensibility of Substrate. If you club it all together, you get agile, flexible, evolving blockchains. So all of these features, all of these things are natively built into Polkadot and Substrate. All you have to do is bring your cool new idea, start building, and Polkadot promises you that it will stay relevant in the future as well. Now, just to give you some more insight into how this has worked out so far, I want to tell you that whatever I told you is out there, live in production. It is being used, it is being executed on, and we have the numbers. So let me show you some numbers on how this has panned out for Polkadot, Kusama, and the other parachains so far. Since the inception of Polkadot and Kusama, we have seen more than 100 forkless upgrades. And these are, trust me, conservative numbers. These numbers are even higher, actually, in real. But I wanted to just take, the safe, conservative numbers here, which are even not bad, actually. 100 forkless upgrades within 2 years. More than 80,000 people have participated in the governance. So it's out there, fully open. These upgrades are not being done by an admin. These upgrades are done using consensus of 80,000 people. And finally, all across Polkadot, Kusama, the parachains, and all of the substrate chains, we have looked at more than 1,000 forkless upgrades. Basically, to give you an idea, in general, a Polkadot or substrate chain upgrades faster than your iPhone upgrades. Trust me when I say that. I have an iPhone and I run Polkadot in my daily job as well. Polkadot updates faster than iPhones as well. So yeah, that's for you evolving blockchains. Thank you for listening and thank you for your time.